Good morning from the McNeil house. It is the weekend before Easter and it's time to make some hot cross buns. Yesterday it was 21 degrees outside, which is around 70 Fahrenheit. So it was gorgeous, crazy windy, but that's why it was warm, was because we were having a huge Chinook. And now today we're back to normal temperatures, like 7 degrees. So back to real life over here. I'm going to help out Sess today, hang out with her and William. Hopefully she can get a little nap in there. It is a cartoon morning for these girls. A little bit of Barbie going on over here. And I'm just trying to get this hot cross bun dough, that's really hard to say, mixed up so that I can get it raising, so that then I can shape it into buns and get it raising again so that I can bake it off before I go. Right now it's just milk, sugar, and yeast, and that yeast is all bubbly and started. And now I've got unsalted butter going in. Flour, cinnamon, allspice, salt, egg. I will link the recipe down below. This is my favorite hot cross bun recipe. I grew up eating hot cross buns. Not a huge fan of the ones with the paste crosses. This one actually has that, but I will skip that step because I don't prefer it. The other thing is that this one calls for sultana raisins, and our family prefers currants. My mom always made them with currants, but you know what? Do you? If you prefer sultanas, do sultanas. I soaked my currants because they're from last year, so right now they're just dripping off, and then I'll throw those in too. Then we're gonna mix that up before we throw the raisins in. Before I get too far, I'm also not a candied fruit person. It has to be currants or some type of raisin, preferably currants for me. I cannot abide candied fruit. I don't mind dried fruit. I do not like candied fruit, and they don't go anywhere near my hot cross buns. You could probably substitute for that if that's your preference, but this is my preference. This is what I go for, and it has one other ingredient that I find makes these just a little bit more special. Number one, they have egg in the dough so that it makes the dough a lot more moist and they will last for more days. Oftentimes I find that bread dough without egg in it dries out really fast. So I always look for a recipe that has egg in it, but the secret ingredient in these ones is orange zest, and it just kind of ups that flavor, and I absolutely love it. Mixer's running in the background, timer set for 5 minutes to get those going. Gives me a second to sip on some coffee. It's gonna smell so good in here. That dough already smells delicious with the raisins and the orange zest in it. And just to give credit where credit is due, this recipe is actually from Recipe Tin Eats, and like I said, I will link it below. And it's by Nagi, N-A-G-I. And this is the recipe I've used for the last couple of years. I've actually shared it with a couple of family members. And if you are looking for a good recipe, go down, check it out, follow that link, and you'll find our favorite hot cross buns recipe. Of course, with a little bit of creative license, because you gotta make it the way you like them. Because I don't do the paste crosses in my hot cross buns, I tend to do an orange juice and icing sugar glaze, or like a really thick one, and make crosses out of that. So although I've taken the zest off of these, I'll hold on to them and I'll juice them in just a little bit to add to icing sugar to make a nice thick paste to add on top. It's gonna be so good. Because I'm in a bit of a hurry this morning, I'm going to raise these in my oven. So I set it for 1 minute at 350. And as soon as the timer goes off, I turn it off, because all we want is warm. It's a little cooler in here today. Like I said, the weather isn't as nice. So I'm just gonna oil this up. Dough is a little stickier than usual, so I could go back and add more flour if I wanted to. Splash of oil in there, just spin it around, flip it over. There it is. I'll throw a towel over it and pop it in the oven. If you are going to use the oven method, the only thing I recommend is making sure it's not too hot. Your oven might heat faster than mine. Just make sure when you open it, double check it before you stick that dough in there, because you don't want to ruin your dough. That would be terrible. I've done it before, where you kind of bake the outside of it to your bowl, and that is not ideal. So make sure it just feels like a tropical day in there before you stick your bread in, to make sure. The other way you can do it is to put a pan of boiling water in there, and that also will give it like a lot of moisture, and it will help it to raise just from the residual heat from the boiling water. I just do it this way because it's super easy. I bake bread at least once a week. That's regular bread, plus I do sourdough. I don't raise my sourdough in the oven though. But when I bake my bread, this is typically the way I do it. When it's nice enough out, I don't have to do that. But it's pretty gray outside today and it's not very warm in here.
A few moments later.
My dough is raised and now I just have to shape it into buns so that I can get them back in the oven. And I'm trying to hurry at this point because I want to get out to Riley and Cecily's house. So just take my piece of dough. This is the way my mom always used to do it. I know that you can slide it across the counter, but just poke it through, squeeze it off. Some of my raisins are falling out, but there it is. Just gonna repeat this like 20 times. This recipe calls for an apricot glaze over top of the crosses once they're all baked. And instead, like I said, I am going to juice an orange and I'm going to make like a really thick, almost paste out of icing sugar and orange juice to put on top, because that citrus flavor mixed in with the zest that's already in there is so delicious. They are raising in the oven once again so that I can bake these off. We had snow. I told you it was cold. It was just snowing, huge fluffy flakes. Sun is coming out again now, but we're supposed to get a mix of rain and snow today. So it's a really good day to warm up the house with something that smells this delicious. And I'm going to get this finished off. I think what I'll do is I will mix it all up and put some in a bag to take with me so that I can put it on once we're there so that it stays, because they'll probably still be pretty hot when I leave, because I don't want to sit around and wait for them to cool off. So we're going to mix this up, then I'm going to run and shower, and then I'm going to get them in the oven, and then as soon as they're out, I'm going to head off to Riley and Cecily's house. Alright, I'm all ready to go. I just have to make my crosses in these. The oven is preheating, just about ready to go. I have one of these, but it's basically a razor blade. I use it all the time for making sourdough. And I'm just going to make my crosses and pop these in the oven. As soon as they're out, I'm ready to go. These are all done, and as you can see, we're missing some because I've got them over here in a little container to take with me. Little bag of icing for Riley and Cecily's, yes, in a frozen bag. And I'm headed out the door. These guys can go ahead and put this icing on these ones once they've cooled down a bit. I'm gonna hit the road because I got a bit of a drive ahead of me. Made it safe and sound, and I'm officially on grandma duty so that mama can get some rest. You just never get tired of babies. They're so wonderful. He has the Houdini thing going on. Look at that little foot. Even though he's swaddled nice and tight, he got his little foot out. Home again. I arrived home to supper Clancy had made. It was absolutely awesome. So nice to come home to a nice warm meal. It's Saturday night, so it's date night. Kids are watching a little show here while Clancy and I go start date night. So I'm going to end the vlog here. I hope that you enjoyed making hot cross buns and seeing that sweet baby, because I sure did. And be sure to hit that like button, give us a thumbs up, and the subscribe button. We'll see y'all soon.